So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am really excited to have this conversation with Lisa Hagenbuch. We were just saying before, I'm like, if you practice it enough, you're going to mess it up no matter what.
Right. It's however anybody wants to say it.
Lisa. This is Lisa.
Yes,
anyway,
that's better.
Right. I wanted to have her on today because her profession really interests me, and it's similar to probably what a lot of people hear, but the difference is what piqued my interest. And so she is an astrologer, and she focuses on family legacy is what I've been saying, so you can give some clarification, but not just on the family that's still here, also on the transits and how the interactions happen for those who've already passed on. Because how many of us have had tumultuous relationships with parents or other people that maybe we want to look at, and this is the person to come to. And so as soon as I heard that, I wanted to interview you. And then also I want to give a shout out to your website name and your company name, Future Echo, and a little bit to Deb Frew, because yes, Deb Frew is the one who helped you, right? And she really is an intuitive brand marketer. She is the bomb. In
really
ways that other people can't do it because they're not using their intuition as much as her. And so I just want to plug that a little bit, and then just say I love your name. So
thanks. Yeah. And that was a collaborative. I mean, it really sums up. I think I'm stepping into that name more and more because of just the work that is unfolding and what I'm doing with it. So we literally came up with it together. And so it feels very authentic. So yeah, she's great.
And so let's start there with the name Future Echo. Can you tell us why that even came to pass and why you love it so much?
Yes. So the word echo just was coming into my mind repeatedly, and I was doing business coaching with her that day. And again, it was like that, that word or whatever comes up in your consciousness is, we need to pay more attention to that, which I've learned, the hard way, that it's important to pay attention to that. So, because an astrology is all about, cycles. And to me, that's kind of energetic reverberations, if you will. And so we have, when we say anything or do anything, it's like we're casting a pebble that has these reverberations. Sometimes we know what those are. Sometimes we really don't always know the effects of it. And I think also we are really so much more affected by the past echoes than we would like to believe. Not only in our past actions, but also what generations in our family have, the actions and inactions and words and all of that they have done can reverberate still in somebody's life. And so it's not just about looking at the future. It's about going back to the past and kind of cleaning that up a little bit. So that life, you're more in the moment, life flows better, you're just more at ease. There's so many more positive effects.
Awesome.
So we came up with, Future Echo, but I think of the echoes as going kind of both ways. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I love the fact that you are really diving deeply into family and how those interwoven paths affect each other. So tell me, how long have you been in astrology, and how long has your focus been on the family?
Sure. So I knew that I wanted to be an astrologer after I sat down with the first astrologer I ever went to. I just I was somebody who never had a hobby, didn't know what she really wanted to do. And I left knowing that was it. So I studied, I probably began the study in around 1995. And as most astrologers, if they're being totally honest, will say it's a lifelong study because it's so deep. There's so many different types of astrology, and there's so many different things about astrology that it's like a rabbit hole that you dive into, and it just never kind of find the bottom of it. But I started seeing clients in 1998. So kind of just, stuck it in the ground. And my teacher was more focused on like the esoteric astrology, the psychological effects and consciousness, versus trying to get precise on trying to ultimately predict like events and things like that. Because while I believe the energy cycles point to possibilities, I think, as astrologers, we're just kind of helping find the answers with the client. We don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen to them. So, my work has kind of evolved over time. It was really impacted when I had children. Mm-hmm. And because just understanding you're just having their chart and trying to understand their energy it's just, as a parent, it's invaluable to know. It's just like the closest thing you get to an operating manual for your child. And not only can you get to know them a little bit better and how to guide them, but also, how they interact with you, how they interact with their father, it's invaluable. So my parenting experience would have been, I'm a Capricorn, full disclosure, would have been very different if I didn't know their charts and if I didn't have an open mind to say they have their own journey and I'm just trying to guide them versus like be the authority that, I probably would have wanted to be at one point in my life. So, and my son communicated to me, that's another story, but that he was a crystal child. So the new energy kids, the kids coming in, they have their consciousness level is just a little more, I say a little bit more conscious, maybe more than evolved, but which doesn't mean that they need a lot of structure and guidance to be here, but they're very wise. And so I just became fascinated with what is a crystal child? What is an indigo child? So that kind of informed me. And then I found Dr. Shefali Sabari, who is Oprah's go-to consciousness parent. So when I saw her and I was like, she's part of it too. So I jumped in and I think I've got certification in like 6 of her courses. Like I just dove in and just immersed myself in her studies and courses. So then I just thought, I'm really interested in the family patterns. And then ultimately, where I think I'm going with this is family constellation work that I'm incorporating into the sessions, which ironically doesn't have anything to do with astrology, but it's really big in Europe. This a German by the name of Bert Hellinger came up with it, and it's just a way of looking at and making positive shifts and movements in issues that are being presented from the generational past, so that you can clear it up and again just have a positive impact on your ancestral line in the future. So it's kind of really, that's what I really love to dig into, like what are the family patterns? Because everyone and everything is in your chart. So they're all in there somewhere. So I like to blend the two together. And
so do you use the personal charts to create a family constellation?
Okay. So, and so in my work, and because I feel like, astrology is at the core of all of it. So yes, I use the personal charts. The family constellation work is more, it's hard to describe. You almost have to experience it, but essentially you are picking out figurines or people to represent different people or situations in your life. And then you're tuning into the energy of that. And there are so the thought is that families operate as a system and that there are orders of love in the system. And when things are out of order, there are statements that can be used to bring them forward. There's support that can be brought in, both energetically and people support. So you kind of tune into the energy of what is the presenting issue, and you kind of shore it up from there. So the beauty about family constellations or constellation work is that there isn't like one right way to do it. There's not certificates that are given. So my training is, I train with somebody in Chicago, but it's a lot of experiential training as well. And I think it blends really well with the chart, because the chart's something concrete I can look at and I can tune into the energy. It's kind of nice, both modalities. You really don't need the story. Like in astrology, you've got the symbols and you can hone in on the characteristics. So unlike like traditional therapy, where you might have to spend, 5 sessions going over the story with your mom, in astrology, I can say, was your mom like this, this, and this? Like, how did you know? And I'm like, well, it's just astrology. So it kind of the same with family constellations. You can hone in on the situation, the energy of it, without needing a story. So they're similar in that way. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of its own unique modality that it's just kind of fascinating. And when you see when you see the shifts showing up in your life, then you're like amazed by it, Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. Amazed by you, really. I'm going to put that in there, because you're the one who's the vessel for the information, and really the one who's bridging the gap between the concrete, which is astrology, your intuition, and the shift, right? And so I love the fact that you're also using family constellations, and the fact that probably a lot of people are on and going, I still don't understand, which is an awesome place to be, because it is some of the greatest things we're never going to understand with our mind. The only way to truly understand them is to experience them. Like you said, it's experiential. Yeah. I could explain to you how to snowboard. I could explain it, but I've never experienced doing it well. So
me either.
I've watched. I'm not good. I can't even do really a bunny hill. And yet there's somebody else who might be able to snowboard and not explain it, but they're like, once you experience this, like it blows your mind. And so I just say to people, don't try to understand. If there's something in you that's drawing you to Lisa or to this work, contact her and ask some questions and try it out. Like, try the experience out and see what shifts, what happens, what awarenesses come.
Exactly. And it's like the work that you do with clients too. It can be hard to put, it's hard to put it into our left brain, logical explanation of it. But when you experience it, and I was saying, I say to people, like, we're going to co-create together. So it's just, I'm not magic. So if I say something and you don't agree with it, then just tell me and we'll shift it. Like because consciousness dictates that even two people with the same chart, like the conjoined twins was the example when I was learning, or I have twin brothers, they can act very different. They have different consciousness, even though they have the same birth chart. So that part of it too, to me, is like, we're just interacting and we're coming, to work on the healing together. So it's just in that's where the magic happens to me.
I agree. I think gone are the times of the guru, where people wanted somebody who, to me, had a facade of perfection that gave all the answers. We are now in the age of co-creation, of awakening that voice inside. And we all need, so even those who coach others, we need somebody who comes in and says, I can listen to you and help you out, and pull up that voice and echo it back to you. so that you can hear it more clearly. And it's a powerful collaboration, right? Like
Yes.
that. So
It really is. And, I know that, I'm receiving some healing from the person I'm trying to give healing to. We're all just interconnected, and we're all, learning from each other. I just happen to know this modality, but I do think of it as a very co-creative healing process, versus I'm the expert and you're the victim or whatever it is,
right.
client, or, it's like,
Yeah.
no, we're all just trying to get to wholeness, together. We need each other to get to wholeness.
Absolutely. And you're right. Like there's a symbiotic thing that happens while you show up as the practitioner in that thing. You're still receiving. It's hard to know when we're not receiving. I don't know that there is ever a place. There's a huge conversation around like, oh, aren't you a giver, and badge of honor that I only give. But we're lying to ourselves if we don't say that we receive on a moment to moment basis all the time. We just may not be acknowledging what we're choosing to receive or what we're choosing to co-create with. So I mean, it's one of the most awesome experiences to step into your purpose, one of your purposes, because I'm sure you have many, and to give and receive in this way, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you were mentioning a bit about how going down this avenue since 1995 has opened things up with your family. How else has it affected you personally to go down this avenue of family constellations and astrology?
Well, it's really helped me, as you can probably imagine. I usually, I shouldn't say usually, oftentimes in families, there's somebody who's the different person. So I'm the different person in my family and never felt understood. And, maybe it's why I was always searching for methods to understand why. But I think it's really helped me to say, once I know who I am, and and it's, we're never really done with our work, right? So we're always having to mind our side of the street. But once I was able to really do that and step into what I do and just own it authentically, then my relationship with my family is better than it's ever been. My family of origin.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now I feel interconnected with them versus feeling separate. And that is, because really, our foundational relationship, or how everything unfolds, is really starts with, your biological parents or the parents that raise you. And it's one thing to say, I feel I don't need to communicate with them and I can shut them off. And you can, and sometimes you have to if it's toxic, too toxic, but it's better to heal it if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a legacy I feel like you leave for, if you have children, for them to step into more healthy relationships with male and female, friends, love relationships. So, and I think also I'm much more compassionate being an astrologer, because I you tend to think that it's very easy to judge people, but when you see these challenges and these charts and you see what people are struggling with, and, you just have a lot more compassion for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get as I think I let go of some judgment through it,
Mm-hmm.
or continue to, I think, which is
Yeah.
always good for
Yeah. No,
Capricorn.
I love what you said too about when you went into this deeper for yourself, it actually created a deeper connection with your family. Because I feel like the message is out there too much. When you focus on yourself, you lose everyone, right? And that can happen, but oftentimes what I find is we lose people, but if you keep the door open, they'll come back in an honoring fashion. Or we lose them because we're like, the only way is to shut the door to you to honor myself. Like, I'm going to put that brick wall of a boundary up instead of just honoring, and I'm going to brick you off. When we're bricking off what could actually be such a contribution after we go to the place of owning and honoring ourselves.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And then we're also not just, we're not repressing it. We're not, trying to, that, it helps if we can just, understand it. We don't always have to agree with it. We don't always have to, we can set some healthy boundaries within that, but healing it first is the key, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And just shutting it out shuts out that opportunity for growth through the healing process. And I have found, my mother passed away about 3 years ago. And I think because of the work that I did, and it was easier for me to not grieve it so much. So she started coming to me like during the visitation, and which is really cool because she didn't believe in anything like astrology. My whole family is like, that's crazy. And we never talked about it. But now she's giving me signs and I can pick up on them and I feel like, we're in a good place still. And I'm hearing from her, and that relationship still continues on, even though she's not physically here. It's just kind of gratifying that way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful. The other question I wanted to ask you is, you said you realized early on that you were different from your family. So I have 2 questions with that. How were you different, and what did you think you were supposed to be in order to fit in with your family?
So I think how I'm different is, I think from a very early age, I realized what I didn't like and what I did like. So full disclosure, like I'm an astrologer, I'm a progressive, I'm, spiritual, maybe not religious. So I come from, a family where they're all Republican, Catholic. You just couldn't be different and be okay. But I realized, I think what I did was I just checked out. I don't really remember much of my childhood. It wasn't horrible. They were loving. It just wasn't me. And then I remember, this actually came through in a regression where I can remember this, like disagreeing with the teacher. And I was excited because I'm like, oh my God, I have my own thought. And they're going to be so excited for me. Like I came up with this, and I went home and immediately shut down. The teacher's right. How dare you? And I just went, wow, like, okay, I can't be me, but I need to get along. So eventually I'll be out of here. So I just I conformed to it. I wasn't happy. It wasn't authentic. And I didn't know who I was. It's like I went to college and I went into sales, and it was fun. It was fine. But like, that's not who I wanted. I'm not interested in sales. I'm interested in psychology. I'm interested in different things. I didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a process of remembering. So I think one of the things with these kids that come in, like my favorite thing to do is to talk to somebody, I don't know, as young as I can, because I just want to I want to honor and witness and just give acknowledgement, say, it's okay. This is who you are. Be who you are. Step into it young. Don't have to remember who you are. Don't have to undo things so that you can hit the ground running, because this is who you are. And that's what I love to do with people. Mm-hmm. And parents, is to say, these are the gifts your child's bringing into the world. Just, allow them to do it early.
Mm-hmm. That's the big piece, is not just talking to the child, but talking to the parent and saying, don't course correct here. This is the course. Right. Their being, this is their path, and celebrate it. And so, it gave me shivers when you shared the story of sitting in class and being so excited to share your difference of opinion, because you thought that would be celebrated. Like, I have my own thought here. And then not only the teacher, but your parents and everybody was like, that's not okay. Right. And it's interesting because I told you I interviewed Katie earlier today, who's a channel for the Druids. And she also works with kids and teens. And this is a huge heartfelt place for me, that there's so many teens who are suffering today. So many teens who are being medicated, so many teens who are being categorized, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes wrongly, for things that are actually gifts, or that are their course, or that are talents, or ways that we actually don't need to fix a thing. We just need to get behind them and support them. Right. I had a conversation with a mom recently and just said, your child doesn't always need to be nice. Like, they don't need to be nice. They have a voice. They're a catalyst. Like, they're here to like change things up. And sometimes they need to be willing to ruffle feathers. Can you get behind that and celebrate it? Can you get behind, and it's like, if we really truly want change, people like you are so helpful, because you can say, look, this is what your chart is saying. Here's some concrete information. This is who you are. These are some patterns you're going to have. Play with them and see what's going to get created in the world. Right?
The play, I think, is so important, and we forget to do it. I'm so guilty of that. And it's funny, you probably, this happens to you too. Do you ever, when you get these clients that come to you and you see it in their energy or their chart, and you tell them like, oh, you just need to play more. You just need to, and you realize, well, do you play, Lisa? Are you taking your own? And maybe this message is not for, you're going to keep getting this person coming to see you until you go, oh, I need to play more.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And we just forget as adults, and that's in astrology, the heart is Leo, and Leo is the play of children, like the imaginative, creative play that we shut down. Mm-hmm. And we all, to some extent, probably do that as adults, and just trying to just keeping that alive. It just opens your spirit to guide you to the next thing.
For sure. Well, we're taught to be adult is to be responsible, to play is irresponsible. Right. And yet, I know that you're finding it too, like the greatest way to create is to play. And people get this idea of play as like going out and playing, skateboarding or playing on play set or swing set, whatever. And that is a part if you desire to do it, but it's more the attitude in which you approach everything, right? Approach an argument, approach like not having an idea. It's like, how can you be playful with this instead of serious? Right. I remember in my non-entrepreneur career, before that, people would say you're like really intense, right? Intense, right. Analytical, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, if you could see me now.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like my sessions went from the very like, oh no, and we start like, oh, I have to tell them everything. I have to tell them the right things. And now I do less prep work, and I'm more in the moment and just playing with what's there. That's the important thing. That's where the creativity comes too, because I think people have a sense of like, what is creativity too? And it's like, creativity is so many different things. It's just kind of like being in that moment to see what comes through. Mm-hmm. And applying it, I guess.
Probably like talks about like that, the essence of now all the time. And I love what you're saying. We're taught so often to prepare and then to hold on to that preparation instead of being in the moment. And it's leaning into the trusting that it's going to come through. Yeah. But that's when the power and the magic happen. It is like when we're willing to be fully in the moment, to allow whatever is supposed to show, to show. And you've done the things in order to prepare. And I put air quotes because I don't think that we're preparing for anything. We're just diving into the loves of our life, right? And then going, okay, and any of that or anything else that would like to show up, here I am. And how wonderful. Like if only we could have more conversation about the power of the now and being just fully open. I think less people would get stomach aches and anxiety, including children.
Right.
Yeah. I love what you're doing. I love how it's affected your own life and continues to affect your own life. I really do hope that more and more people who are suffering with their family legacy come to see you, suffering with the pains in their current family, so that they can find out ways to honor themselves, honor their family, and support that. It's really nice to have a concrete chart. I know I've also had sessions with you in the past, not quite on the same thing, but maybe. I mean, we did do. I
think your boys, right?
What do you call them when there's two charts together?
Oh, the synastry of the relationship charts. Yeah.
So I think we did a couple of those, or maybe you just looked at them yourself, because
fascinating to see.
Yeah. And so when people do come to you, do they generally come to you for one session, a series of sessions? How does that work?
Yeah, you know what? It all varies. Lately, I have had people, I feel like there was a shift in my mind where I said, you're really doing energetic talk therapy here, because it is, astrology is a system. So it is, and I'm opening up my right brain. My left brain is maybe a little bit too open sometimes. So when I realize, I'm thinking of it more like that. So if I always say to people after we meet, sometimes they still want to dive in. Like if you want to dive further into an issue that was raised, then schedule right away. If you're just looking for the trends for the year, then, maybe 6 months, a year. But oftentimes now people are, they have their session, but they're like, oh, I want to do a session on my children and how we relate, or I want to dive into this family issue. So they're scheduling, probably averages, either like back to back or within like 2-3 months they're coming back, and people I'm finding from the past are like, oh, I need to revisit this again, so it all kind of varies. I just say you'll know when you'll feel drawn, as like people come to see you when there's a reason, and it always shows up. I just had the most fascinating one the other day that I can think of. It was a woman who's a great artist, and she, her family when they were on Unsolved Mysteries, it's a family that has been, repeated, or multiple members have been struck by actual lightning. She was struck by lightning. There's a couple members that died, and she was like trying to solve this mystery, and we dug in and we got to a part of it. And she's like, I want to get their charts and I want to dive more into this issue. And I'm like, that's great. Cause I mean, that was kind of fascinating to say, like, can we solve this? Can we try to figure out why? Mm-hmm. And lightning balls that happen. And so, it's I always say though, people will know when they want to come back. Because they just need a message from me, and they might go see you next week because they need a message from you. I just kind of leave it up to spirit, and it just happens. I don't feel like I'm letting go of. The older I get, I'm just trying to let go of control, and it just shows up.
Absolutely. I love how wild it can be and what you can find out through astrology. So that's a crazy story to share. And maybe you'll be on the show in the future going, here's the why.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Yeah. So she's like, we went over a half hour. I'm like, I don't care. I have to figure this out. I think of these charts as like, we're all kind of mysterious, whether to ourselves or people are mysteries to us. And we're just trying to figure things out. And it's just a great tool to dive in and do that. So,
Yeah, I love that too. And I love what you said about just allowing spirit to lead people. Um, I feel exactly the same way. There's never any pressure from me. If somebody gets on the phone and they're inquiring about my work, I just say, when you're ready, you're going to choose it. Like, there's just no pressure to say yes before we get off the phone, because that's me being in the space of lack and saying, like, you must do it now. Because otherwise, if you get off the phone, you'll never choose me. They're not choosing me or you, honestly, anyway. They're choosing the wisdom that flows through our unique bodies and our unique choice of being that allowance. And they're wise enough, right? And that allows us to receive the magic of the universe when we just go, I'm open to whoever will choose. I'm just going to show up so that they can find me.
That's it. It's funny because somebody said that to me in a session recently. They're like, all you have to do is like, don't be afraid of putting yourself out there, but just put yourself out there. And if nobody shows up, that's okay. They'll show up sometime, but it's all you have to do is just do you. And then, and I it's hard to trust that, but when you do, you see it reflected back and you're like, oh, then you trust it just gets deeper. So
absolutely. And it's more fun, I think. It's more fun because, you're not trying to pull people in, you're not trying to manipulate them in. You're just like, when you know that I'm the person to help you at this time, you're going to choose. And then when you go somewhere, I'm also happy for you to go fly. And it leaves the door open for the other people. I mean, there's 7 billion people, maybe more, right?
Right.
And so is that 7 billion on the planet? I don't even know anymore. But anyway, there's more people than I could ever possibly see in my lifetime. There's enough. There's enough. And that we could see as clients, right? Like me being a client of somebody else. So the universe is wonderful. It's awe-inspiring when we allow it to show us the power that it has and to bring us people in ways that we could never imagine. And I continue to be in awe in that way. So
yeah, exactly. And I love that whole thought of like us as energy practitioners is just being supportive and cooperative with each other. And you're right. There's this, somebody could go see 10 people and they're going to get the same day, they're going to get a different message that they needed to hear from that person. So there's plenty out there. And that's another shift. I mean, I think just the more you work with people, you get so many gifts from them and it helps your spiritual growth. So that you can feel more in just being and allowing what is.
Absolutely. We're connected whether we like it or not. So we might as well embrace the fact that we're connected. And really there's no way of disconnecting.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we're honestly true, like we can ignore, so we can hide, we can bury it and all that kind of stuff. But whether we like it or not, we're always all connected. And so the more that we can embrace that and play with it and find out what it wants to bring and contribute to us, like the more fun that we can have. And I mean, it makes my life more joyful. I mean, before we even got on, we just shared, I have a client that I sent your way because I'm like, you're the one who's going to blow some things up in a beautiful way for her. And so why wouldn't I send her your way when I know that you have the capacity to shine light on things that will really bring her wholeness, bring her connection, and allow her path forward to be a lot easier. Like, why would I stand in the way of that? Like, that's only going to help all of consciousness, all of humanity, including myself and you.
I agree. I mean, it's just like you said, it's the strands and by releasing you gain back even more, I think, and
Absolutely.
just, yeah.
It's fun. Well,
It
I
is
thank you
fun.
so much for coming on
Thank
today. It's
you. Thank you.
always
This
so
was
much
really
fun.
fun to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I look forward to hearing from other people and from you, like what you're doing. Just because, look, I want to hear more people who share their experience with you, and I just love the fact that you're stepping into a really different realm in astrology and a different realm that most people haven't heard of. Um, Share what the name of it is again. Constellations, family
Family
constellations.
constellations. Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be really wonderful because a lot of us need that. A lot of us need that space of wholeness and healing in our family relationships, whether the family is alive or not. And I really want to stress that to those who are listening, that Lisa can tap in and help you even with parents or siblings or whoever it is that have already passed on. Like, she can help you to understand and to heal those parts. It's really powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do and your gifts. And I really like your recent presentation at the metaphysical tribe. It was beautiful. So I had a lot of aha moments. So I appreciate you as well.
Oh, thanks so much. It was a lot of fun. Deb does an amazing event every year. So I was glad to speak this year. And thanks for being there and having aha moments.
I love aha moments. They're the
I do
best.
too. I do too. So thanks again, Lisa. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weekend, and hopefully people will reach out to you. I'm going to send out all of your information in the verbiage below. So if anybody's thinking of that right now, I will have her website so that you can contact her with ease, um, listed on there, and then we'll go from there. But thanks,
Right.
Lisa.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.